You know the story. It's one of the most epic tales ever told. You've got an enslaved nation, a cruel tyrant, a terrifying series of plagues, and a dramatic, sea-splitting escape. For thousands of years, the story of the Exodus has been the ultimate rescue narrative. It's so powerful that it's been retold in countless books and blockbuster films. We all feel like we know this story, but what if we've been missing the point? We focus on the thrilling escape, that epic chase to the shores of the Red Sea. But what if the most important part of the story isn't the escape from Egypt? What if the real story, the one with radical, world-changing implications, only starts after the Israelites are already free? The common telling of the Exodus ends exactly where the real story begins. Everyone celebrates the moment the Israelites get out of Egypt, but the far more revolutionary question is what they were meant to get into. The Exodus isn't really a story about breaking chains. It's a story about what you do the day after the chains are gone. It's about a journey from the absence of oppression to the presence of a purpose. And this ancient redefinition of freedom offers a profound challenge to our modern lives, where we're often enslaved in ways we don't even recognize. To really get the Exodus is to understand that true liberty isn't just about being rescued from something. It's about being set free for something greater. Let's be honest, the escape is incredible. It's a story that has captivated generations for a reason. A nation of slaves, the Israelites, are suffering under the brutal thumb of an Egyptian pharaoh. He sees their growing population as a threat, so he crushes them with forced labor and unimaginable cruelty. Their cries for help go up, and a leader, Moses, is called to confront the most powerful man in the world with a simple, audacious demand. Let my people go. Pharaoh, of course, refuses. And what follows is this cosmic showdown between the power of a human empire and the power of the divine. 10 plagues rain down on Egypt, each one a direct hit on the gods and the systems that held the empire together. The Nile, the very lifeblood of Egypt, turns to blood. Darkness smothers the land. Finally, the devastating 10th plague, the death of the firstborn, breaks Pharaoh's will. He lets them go, only to change his mind and chase them with his army of chariots to the banks of the Red Sea. Trapped. With nowhere to run, the Israelites are facing total annihilation. Then the impossible happens. The waters part, creating a dry path to safety. As the last Israelite steps onto the far shore, the walls of water collapse, wiping out the entire Egyptian army. It's a moment of breathtaking deliverance. They are finally free. And right here, at this incredible climax, is where most of our movies and stories fade to black. We see the victory, the celebration, the end of slavery. But in the biblical narrative, this is only the end of chapter 14 of the book of Exodus. There are 26 more chapters to go. Why? Because the escape was never the final destination. It was just the prelude. The real story was about to unfold, not in the palaces of Egypt, but in the harsh, empty wilderness. Immediately after their miraculous escape, the Israelites find themselves in a vast, empty desert. And almost immediately, they start complaining. They're hungry, they're thirsty, and they start looking back at their slavery with rose-tinted glasses. They actually cry out to Moses, saying it would have been better to die in Egypt with full stomachs than to starve out here. It's a shocking turn. Just days after witnessing the greatest miracle in their history, they're ready to go back. This reveals a profound truth. You can take people out of slavery, but it's much harder to take the slavery out of people. For 400 years, their lives had been defined by oppression. Their time wasn't their own, their work served someone else, and their whole purpose was dictated by their masters. Now, in the silence of the desert, they're confronted with a terrifying new reality. They're free, but they have no clue what to do with that freedom. This is where the story pivots from a physical rescue to a spiritual transformation. The wilderness isn't just a place on a map. It's a classroom, a crucible. It's the place where a group of former slaves had to unlearn the mindset of bondage and learn what it truly meant to be a free people. Freedom, they were about to find out, wasn't the absence of rules. It was the presence of a whole new kind of structure, a new purpose, and a new identity. See, the Egyptian model of freedom was all about power. Pharaoh was free because he could do whatever he wanted, impose his will on anyone, and operate without any restraint. But the Exodus story proposes a radical alternative. It argues that true freedom isn't the power to do whatever you want. True freedom is about aligning your life with a higher purpose. It's about shifting from a life of forced labor for a human king to a life of willing service to God and to each other. After 3 months of traveling, the Israelites arrive at the foot of Mount Sinai. This is the absolute heart of the Exodus story, far more important than the parting of the sea. It's here that God invites them into a covenant, a binding relationship. He tells them that if they follow his ways, they will become a kingdom of priests and a holy nation, a people who would show the rest of the world what he is like. Then God gives them the law, famously summed up in the 10 Commandments. Now we hear the word law and we immediately think of restrictions, a list of things we can't do that limits our freedom. But for the Israelites, this law was the very architecture of their new liberty. It was a gift. Think about it, a society built on principles like don't murder, don't steal, and don't lie is a society where people can actually live without constant fear. A society that honors a day of rest, the Sabbath, creates a rhythm of work and rest that protects people from exploitation and burnout, a revolutionary idea in the ancient world. This law was a blueprint for a just and compassionate society. And critically, it was rooted in their own experience of pain. The command to care for the most vulnerable, the orphan, the widow, the foreigner, is repeatedly tied to their own past. You shall not oppress a stranger. For you know the heart of a stranger, since you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Empathy was literally written into their national constitution. Their memory of slavery wasn't meant to be a source of trauma, but a wellspring of justice. This was the brand new definition of freedom, not a chaotic free-for-all, but a structured community bound together by mutual responsibility and a shared moral purpose. Freedom wasn't about breaking free from all constraints. It was about choosing the right constraints, the ones that lead to life, justice, and flourishing for everyone. It was a freedom for others, not just freedom from oppression. This redefinition of freedom isn't just some ancient idea. It's a direct challenge to our modern world. We may not live under a whip-wielding Pharaoh, but we are surrounded by more subtle forms of slavery. We can be enslaved to our appetites, driven by a consumer culture that screams our worth is based on what we own. We can't be enslaved to ideologies, trapped in digital echo chambers that demand total conformity and demonize anyone who disagrees. We can be enslaved to ambition, to the approval of others, to anger, or to anxiety. These modern slaveries often promise freedom, the freedom of choice, of self-expression, the freedom to define our own reality. But they so often leave us feeling isolated, anxious, and empty. This story of the Exodus forces us to look at our own lives and our society and ask a tough question. Are we truly free, or have we just traded one kind of bondage for another? This narrative has been a powerful source of inspiration for social justice movements throughout history, from the American Civil Rights Movement to struggles against political oppression all over the globe. They saw in the Exodus a promise that injustice doesn't get the final word, but the story also pushes us further. It suggests that political and social freedom, as essential as they are incomplete without a spiritual and moral freedom to match. It's not enough to break the external chains if we're still bound by internal ones. The Exodus pattern, a journey out of bondage through a transformative wilderness and into a new way of life, is a pattern for our own lives too. It calls us to leave behind the things that enslave us and to start the difficult, sometimes confusing journey toward a life of real meaning, purpose, and connection. So, what does true freedom look like in your life? Take a moment to think about the Egypts you might need to leave behind. And maybe more importantly, what promised land of purpose and community are you being called to build? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if this way of looking at the Exodus story connected with you, consider subscribing for more explorations into the stories that shape our world. The Exodus is so much more than a rescue story. It's a foundational narrative about the very meaning of freedom itself. It teaches us that leaving slavery is just step one. The real journey, the harder journey, is about building a new life, a new community, and a new world based on justice, compassion, and a purpose bigger than ourselves. The dramatic escape from Egypt gets all the attention, but the real, enduring legacy of the Exodus was born in the quiet of the desert, at the foot of a mountain. It's there that a group of former slaves was given a new vision for humanity, a vision that tells us freedom isn't the absence of anything, but the costly, beautiful, and purposeful presence of everything that truly matters.